Hey guys, how's it going? I'm still here in Peru. I'm in Cusco. Been here for a few days. I'm actually going to do ayahuasca tomorrow, so I'll be able to tell you guys how that went. But I wanted to share with you guys my experience here. And I always come up with the titles after I make the video, and I'll upload this as soon as I'm done with it to get you guys new content. But listen, man, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I've been down here just really discontent with American women and dating them and putting up with their bullshit. Even when you get them, you really realize that 99% of them really are not worth any more than just a one night stand. And when you really look at the one night stand, you really look and see how much work it was and that it really wasn't worth it. So, but I don't want to make this about one night stands. I want to make this about what I've realized here. So, yeah, I've been here. I started off this journey in Colombia. I went to Medellin. I was there for 3 days. It was cool. I had a good time. Handled some business, if you know what I'm talking about. It's good to get away from work, even though when you own your own business, you're never really away from work because I still have to field phone calls and set up appointments and make sure that um, everything is ready for me when I get back because vacation is just a vacation. You got to go back to real life. But I've I've come across something here. I was I was noticing how there's so many dogs here, and the vast majority of them are street dogs, right? Not on a leash, have no owner, therefore they obviously have no training. And I mean, I'm talking about like there could be like a plaza. There's a plaza here called Plaza de Armas. It's where there's a lot of restaurants and stores and touristy spots and boutiques and shit like that. And there's people. It's super crowded. There's people walking all over the place, right? And there's dogs just in the middle of the fucking plaza, in the middle of the sidewalks where people are walking, and they just walk right past the dogs. They're no problem. They don't bite people. They don't jump on people. They don't bark on people. They don't try to steal your food. They're just as calm as can be. And I thought about it. I'm like, whenever I see dogs all the time. And, whenever I go into someone's house, the dog jumps on me. Or, I see the dog walking on a leash and it flips out when it sees another dog. Or, they destroy shit, right? And then, probably these dogs aren't even trained. These dogs don't even have an owner, and they're just minding their own business. And then I got a phone call from a friend of mine. He has a 7-year-old son, and the kid's been diagnosed with ADHD, and he just got in big trouble because he threatened to kill some kid for mocking him. Now, it's a 7-year-old kid, and but it was taken seriously. I mean, they had to do a threat assessment on the kid, and I thought about this. I'm like, so many of my clients that I know that I deal with, they have kids that have ADHD, a learning disability, some sort of autism. They're on the spectrum somehow, whatever. And I just wonder, I mean, how is it that all these kids are so fucked up? And then I notice how fucked up everyone's dog is, right? Like, I mean, I'm sure a lot of you guys could think about like going into your friend's house and the dog jumps up on you, licks you, annoys you, right? Like, these dogs get into fights with each other. They're lunging at other dogs on a leash. They're acting out in public. And I thought about this, and I said, I go to a coffee shop, and almost every fucking time there's a dog, the dog just barks at me, or the dog, another dog comes in, the dog starts going crazy, right? And I thought about it, and I said, we're not living according to how we're really supposed to be living. We're cooped up inside all day, in offices, in jobs, most of which we don't want to be at, but we need to be in them because we need to pay our bills. The dogs are in houses all day. Kids are in these fucking schools all day. They're not even allowed to talk at lunch, my friend told me. And this is a public school. And I thought about this, and I'm like, all these behaviors, whether it's dogs or whether it's kids, this is indicative of unhappy beings living in a situation where they have no freedom and they're caged animals, whether it's a caged dog or a caged child. They're not able to be free. They're not able to explore. They're not able to be who they are, explore who they are, explore the world, explore just for the sake of just exploring. I remember when I was a kid, I would play kickball, I would play football, I would play capture the flag, paintball. We would go roller skating. We would build forts, right? We would have bonfires. Like we did stuff. And it was great. It was great. Those were the best times. I look back at my childhood and I'm like, those are probably the best times, right? Or at least one of them, a lot of them. But the kids now today, they have no real freedom. They're online all day. They're on their iPad all day. They're on their video games all day. And the dogs can't be dogs. They have to be on a leash all the fucking time. They can't just run in the woods. They have to be on a leash all the time. And I see society just really almost making human beings into, predictable, routine, totally, robotic sort of machines. And, if you think about it, we listen to the same music every day, same podcasts every day. We drive the same routes to work, the same routes to whatever extracurricular that we're doing. We talk to the same people about the same shit. It never changes, right? Our thoughts and our behaviors from day to day are very fucking similar. They're almost the same. It's almost as if every day is the exact same fucking thing. And you think about it, if you are predictable, if you are routine, it'd be easier to control you, wouldn't it? So that was just something that I picked up on when I was down here. And I learned that from just observing these dogs, that we're not really free. And that's why we're acting out. That's why these kids are acting out. Kids and dogs are much closer to how they naturally are than adults. Like we adults, we suppress a lot of our emotions. We're very detached from our emotions because, we realize at some point that we have responsibilities and we have to go out and do things we don't want to do. And if we think too much about it, or if we feel too much about it, we could have an existential crisis, right? So we have to kind of suppress a lot of our emotions in order to, do the things that we have to do on a daily basis. And thus, but we're not as, we're not as close to our nature, our emotions as a child is or as a dog is. And, I thought about this. I thought about just how this unhappiness spreads into really every facet of our lives. And how do people deal with this unhappiness, right? I mean, something is clearly going on and has been going on. I think. I think it's. I can't tell you like when it started, but I would definitely say in the last 5 years, I've noticed it become way worse. I don't know if it was COVID that did it, or if it was social media, and then maybe COVID just expediting that process. I don't know, but I've noticed something, and that is just a general unhappiness in people, and I feel it myself. I'm not immune to it. I'm not exempt from this. But I really, I've always tried to like lean into it and figure out why and figure out a solution, because I see people making decisions and how they deal with this, and they're very unhealthy coping mechanisms, and they lead to very unhealthy results in life. You know, on the extreme, this can lead to mass shootings, or suicide, or drug addiction, or full blown alcoholism, or criminal behavior of whatever sort. I think that's the extreme. But then when we look at the I think what's more common is we see just detachment, and what we see, and this is just a very human thing, is is confirmation bias. We make a decision, that those decisions get us into a certain circumstance, and then we try to justify why that circumstance is the right thing. So for instance, like you have a lot of women that are in their mid 30s, professional women. They've got their profession, they've got their degree, they've got their car, they've got their place, they've traveled all over the world, right? They come, they go, they do what they want, they answer to nobody. And you see how they're alone. They're 33, they're 34, they're 35, yet they're alone. They have nobody. And I actually I bring this up because I met a girl today that's 33. She's a traveling nurse, attractive girl, lives in San Diego, from Michigan originally. And I heard somebody speaking English with an American accent, so whatever. I talked to her because there's like hardly any Americans here. We went to lunch somewhere. We got a bite to eat. We just started talking, and she was, definitely, the embodied pretty much everything I hate in an American woman. Which I could write a PhD, doctoral thesis on why they are, just absolutely, not a viable option to date or to have anything to do with, really. Argumentative the entire time. Justifying why every guy she's ever been with, she's better off without. How, she doesn't need anybody, she never wants to get married, how she can go and do whatever she wants, and she travels all the time, and she can just pick up and move or whenever, however many times she wants. And that, I'm not going to date anybody unless the guy brings more value to my life than I've already brought to my own. All this bullshit, right? And she's traveled. This is a 33-year-old American single woman traveling alone in a third world country. Okay? So, what kind of a woman, if you're a man, you're traveling alone, like I get that, you know, that I can understand. But a woman in fucking Peru, it was very strange to me. But you know, this is this is the American woman. This is this modern woman. You know, this is a prelude into, or this is a nice segue into my next video, which is going to be about girls that travel a lot. But this is an example of somebody who clearly has a lot of baggage and a lot of unresolved issues with men, who has chosen to be a card carrying subscriber of this notion that, you know, I don't need a man, I'm independent, you know, I did it all on my own, and you know, the whole bullshit that we're all sick and tired of listening to, right? But this is an example of somebody that's found themselves in their mid 30s alone and traveling literally alone and justifying why her circumstances is correct. You know, not once did she ever mention what she offers, what value she brings to the table, because see, it's all about her. It's all about her and what the guy can do for her. It's never about anything she can do for the guy. And you'll notice that with these professional women, you know, like they have all these crazy demands and they have all these requirements, yet they can't really list anything that's so great about themselves. Like, other than that they're maybe attractive or that they're educated, that, but like everything that they, even when they do list, it's like, I have my own job, I have my own money, I'm educated, I'm strong, I'm independent, I've done this, I've done it. Like, those are all things that men brag about or try to advertise when, you know, trying to attract a woman. So it's like, you know, no guy gives a fuck that you've traveled. No guy gives a fuck that you have a fucking college degree. No guy gives a fuck that you make good money. Like, because you're not going to take your resources and help provide for me. It's never going to happen, right? And if you do, it's not going to last, right? I mean, that sometimes can last when a guy's, you know, a 25-year-old personal trainer and he's dating a 40-year-old woman. But that's not a relationship that's gonna last any more than a few months, right? That's a fling. So, you know, this is what I'm talking about, guys. Like, we're living in a society. I know I talked about a lot of random things, and I try to tie the dog and the kid thing into the woman, but we're living in a profoundly ill society, and we see it, and we see that the way that people are going about trying to, you know, deal with this is very unhealthy. Because I'm going to tell you something. You know, I've traveled all over the world. I'm traveling right now. You know, I usually go away 2, maybe 3 times a year. Just to, it's really not that enjoyable. It's really not that great. The world is pretty much, I mean, look, there are certain aspects about certain places that are good, that are better than others. But, you know, life is life. And ultimately, what I'm coming to realize for myself is what we're all really looking for. I kind of think about Thanksgiving. You know, Thanksgiving, which, you know, it's coming up in whatever, a little over 2 months, 2.5 months, whatever. It's not, you know, that far away. But Thanksgiving is a time when I go back home and I visit my family and I visit my old friends and I visit, you know, some of my old stomping grounds, some places that I really enjoyed going. But most notably, I visit the woods. Because I'm from Ohio originally, and we've got a lot of woods there. Got some great forests there. And I'll take the dog, and I'll just go. And I'm always so happy at just the open space, that I can be totally free with my thoughts, with my contemplation about life, about whatever. There's no people bothering me. There's no loud music. There's no engines being revved. There's no noise. There's no congestion. There's no loud, crazy music. There's nothing. It's just I'm alone with myself in the woods, and I see how happy the dogs are. They're running and free, and they're able to just be. And I see myself how, it's in that hour or two that I'm out there, I'm totally free. And I think about it, and I think about what life's really all about. And I've traveled, but whenever I travel, I'm always, especially the last couple times, I always come back to this. It's like, why am I even fucking here? Like, I don't give a shit about these people. I don't give a shit about these people's culture. I don't care about how they live. I don't care about their history. I don't give a fuck. It's always a big letdown. And I'm not saying I haven't seen some interesting things or met some interesting people, but like, ultimately, it's just a waste of time. If you want to see any of this shit, you can go look it up on National Geographic or watch a documentary about it. The only real times that I've really looked back and been very fond of traveling have been the girls that I've slept with. Because getting laid in other countries is pretty fun. It's pretty cool. It's pretty exciting. There's an exotic factor to it, and a spontaneity factor to it, and I've enjoyed that. Those are good stories, but seeing the Eiffel Tower or seeing the Colosseum or seeing Big Ben in England or fucking Peru, it's like, who gives a shit? Every fucking place is the exact same. Some places are nicer. Some places are more, developed. But like, ultimately, every city, you got restaurants, you got museums, you got government buildings, you got clubs, and bars, and stores, maybe park. It's all the same. It's all the same. I mean, the people just have a little bit different skin color, or they look different, or they speak a different language, but people are people. And this leads me to what I want to tell you guys. What I believe we're all looking for. And it's a very simple fucking solution. We're looking to build a home. We really don't need that much to be happy. We've been convinced that we need all this other bullshit, status, and a Bugatti, and I need to be ripped with steroids, and I need to have influence, and I need to have, a girl with a BBL and a lip job and a boob job, and like Wes Watson or Andrew Tate or any of these other idiots say. No, you don't. And I know those people aren't happy. I know they're not. You do not need to be a man of influence. You need to be a man of value. And if you become a man of value, you'll have the influence that you need. And what you want is you want to build a home. You want to build a home that has the things that you want, access to the things that you really enjoy, close to people that you like, that you care about, that are important to you. That's your family, your friends, whatever. And a community that you want to be a part of. And that's all you need. You do not need to be, living in Miami and fucking OnlyFans girls and going out to the clubs and having, 100,000 followers on Instagram. That is all it's all a mirage. It's all a ruse. It's all bullshit. Because I'll tell you what, and I've been all over the place, but the place I really liked the most was, I went from Florida all the way to Maine. I've been to Colombia twice, now Peru, North Carolina, right? I don't believe that I've been more happy in a place other than maybe Bucks County, Pennsylvania, because it kind of reminded me of home, but it wasn't home. I like to be in the woods. I like access to nature. I like good restaurants. I like good people. I like real intelligent people, not fake plastic vapid idiots that just want to chase clout. And what does that mean to me? I want to build a home. I want to find a home. I want to build a home, and I want to be focused on that. Because that's what it's all about. That's what's going to make you happy. That's where you're going to build memories in. Is building a home. You build memories there. It's a center for people to get together. That's what matters in life, All this other bullshit is bullshit. I'm not saying don't travel. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying, really look at how people are acting out in society. And it's because I think they just don't have the freedom to move. They don't have the freedom to operate. They're caged. And sometimes, you need to. What traveling has taught me is the importance of finding a home, because you can go all over the world and you can see interesting things and you can do it, but I don't know, I just think it's all the same. I just don't think that it's any different. Who you are, you're going to be, look, it's easier to get laid in some of these places of being an American, but you also know why they want you, right? But, look, it's not only because of that. I do think some cultures just haven't been infected with feminism, and they haven't been infected with, the bullshit that we have here. But my message is this. Uncage yourself, build a fucking home, and I think that'll build real happiness. I'm out.